Oh, that is a nice copper coin. But oh, Doug, do you know what time it is?
45 up.
Who says 45 up, Doug? It's quarter after. What's up, guys? Hoarder here. Welcome to another quarter after. Been doing this a couple months now. I'm starting to get a groove, not really having as many technical issues, which is always the nightmare of doing the live stuff. It's not as easy as nice, clean, edited video where I can fine-tooth comb everything. But I'm going to bring the guys in a second. I do want to say a couple of hellos. I see Amanda Collins in there, Gary Marin, Eric Thompson, Jersey Ray Diggs, Rachel, Marty Vistral, how are you, sir? Toledo Tab, Big Wave Digging Life, NEPA History and Archaeology Search, John EB, Hot Mess Fishing, Alicia, one of my moderators. Thank you, Alicia, for coming in. Scott Curie, Patrick Parker, Wendy Olson, New England Relic Hunting, Gabriel Siegel, History Hunters, J Diggs History, Tim A, everybody. Thank you. I appreciate you guys coming in. We got a fun guest on tonight, Ken King, DK, who, if you're not familiar with him, super interesting, innovative guy with the YouTube and metal detecting, did some things that no one else has done. So I'm really looking forward to having him on the other side of the questions today. Merrill is here, Metal Detecting NYC, hint, hint, future guest. We'll announce that, as he gets closer. But let's bring in one of my regular future guests, Mr. Dog Tag Doug, Mexican Doug, Jane Fond Doug. How are you, Dougie?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm living the dream, Doug.
How'd it go with the dentist today?
It was good. I had to get, I had a temporary cap on, and they just, I was going to get the permanent one pretty quick, maybe half an hour. They, knock out the one. It feels really weird because your tongue just wants to like gravitate over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I'm good to go. So knock on wood, no more dentist visits in quite a while.
And I guess you went at Tooth Hurdy, right?
Tooth Hurdy. No, it was actually 2:00, but
okay.
I appreciate the joke.
Right.
Yeah, Doug and I got out today for only like 2 hours or so with our buddy Matt. And I don't want to say Doug, but Doug got an amazing bucket list type item that people will see in a future something or other.
Yeah.
Maybe a video. Maybe I'll do. I've been having a lot of fun putting up those Facebook videos, Doug. I put up like one a day or something like that. I really like it. It's a little bit more real time, personal. You know what I mean? So it's a nice little thing there.
Could I say hi to a couple people?
Go ahead, absolutely, sir.
Digologist detecting. Hello. Like to say hello back.
You got to say them faster, Doug.
Okay.
We don't need a dissertation for everyone.
Okay. Hello, everybody. How's that?
That was good.
Okay.
Let's bring in another one here. Of course, our good friend, Mr. Charles, the Heritage Relic Hunter.
Charlie.
Hi, guys. How's
Hey,
it going?
Charlie.
The Excalibur hat looks good on you. I like that black and white. You almost look like a pro ball player.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not the kind of balls I was talking about, though. But.
Jason, a lot of people said hi this weekend up there in Northeast Relic Hunt.
Yeah, we were invited up. We couldn't make it, but you were able to go up with Joe Setti. It was up in Massachusetts.
KK was there too, yes.
KK was there.
Yeah.
I would have liked to go on. It's tough because it's 5 hours. I only had one day. We had to drive up 5 hours in the morning, detect all day, drive 5 hours home the same night. And I only found out about it like 4 days before. I just couldn't get up there. But I hope you had a good time, and you and Joe and Karen got to hang out, which is always nice.
Great time, yes.
Talking about hanging out, Charlie, let's also bring in Mr. Rich Van Winkle, who's hanging out in Castle Grayskull, Charlie.
How are you?
It's like a Viking. It's like a castle.
Yeah, it looks like he's in a prison. It looks like he's in like an old castle prison.
I am. I persuaded them to give me a laptop, though.
Yeah. Are your hands shackled to the wall, or are you free to move them around?
Just one.
Yeah. Charlie, if my hands were shackled, I'd be in big shape because I'm half Italian, so I talk. Like my hands are all over. If my hands were like, that would be really difficult.
Well, they would make sure your chains are longer.
I would need I would need a long chain or
Make
something.
sure, yeah.
I'm going to give also a quick little shout out or whatever you call it. I just want to wish my good buddy Brad Martin a healthy recovery. I'm sure you guys know Brad's been, dealing with some health issues. He's doing better. He's been putting some updates up. So, hopefully he'll be back to full power, whatever that is, but within another week or so. He's a good.
Yeah, he didn't show up for the hunt. He was supposed to be at that hunt this weekend. And
he was supposed to be there?
Yeah, he was supposed to be at that hunt. He didn't show up. And Steph, I heard Steph was also ill.
Oh, really? Oh, I did see that on her Facebook. Well, then I'm also putting an extended get well soon to Steph also. I don't know if hers is. Oh, look, there's Brad in the chat. Green Mountain Brad. Love you, brother. I love busting Brad's chops because I like him so much. If I bust your chops a lot, Charlie, it means I like you a lot.
Okay.
I do wish Brad.
I will remember that.
Yeah. Like you don't bust a stranger's chops, because they might punch you in the face. But your buddies, you can do. But I hope you're feeling better, Brad. It'd be nice to see another get back out there. I'm sure he's going stir crazy a little bit. So, but yeah, fun show tonight. A little backstory on Ken. Charlie, you actually traveled overseas with Ken. Do you remember?
I did not. It was overseas.
I do that with Doug a lot when we film the intros. I'll always be like, Doug, do you remember something that happened last week? And I always tell Doug, look, I know I say I do remember, but it's just a segue. Just say, yeah, I remember. But Doug used to get real offended, like I was calling him an idiot. Like, it happened yesterday. Of course.
But he only does that because he likes me.
I do, only because I like you. That's right. Only because I like you. Oh, let me do this real quick, too. You guys might notice that Lindiana Jones is not here today. Lynn is out this weekend at the Gathering the Farm Antique Show in Gettysburg. If you're able to get out there, it's free admission, which is a rare one. Usually you have to pay like $5 or whatever. Free admission. And if you find Lynn in her booth, go up and say hello. She gives you like a little signed picture, takes a photo, and you might just make the next live show, Doug. Well, you won't, Doug, but someone else will.
So it's the address is there, 1042 Bullfrog Road. So hop on out to Fairfield, PA.
Yes, Bullfrog Road. And because she's not here, Doug, I'm going to show just a few pictures real quick of what her booth looks like. She always does a great job staging her booth. It's not like she just puts a folding table out, and throws a tablecloth over it. She goes up a day early and really goes all out to make it look super inviting. And then next week, she's going to be, since she won't be here to plug it, she'll be down in Virginia at the Fisherville Antiques Expo, 73rd one, Doug. It's been going longer than you've been on this earth. So if you can't make it to Gettysburg this week, maybe you can make it down to Fisherville next week so you can watch this later, pause it, get the address, and go say hello to Lindiana Jones, and you'll win yourself a prize, Doug. Shameless plug for one of the groups since I couldn't be here.
And you'll get your picture taken with her.
Well, you have to take the picture. It's not like we send a camera guy there. Someone else has to hold the camera,
Yeah.
I wish I had time to go to the antique shows too. There's just not enough days in the week.
Yeah, there was one coming up. I told your mom, I said, why don't you tell the guy we'll promote the show, but he's got to give you like half price to get in. That's fair, And then I volunteered that Doug would go down for an hour and do a signing in the morning, and I can promote that. Like Doug will sign.
Thank you.
And a kissing.
I've got nothing else to do.
And a kissing booth, Doug. You always like it when I set you up at a kissing booth.
Yes. Yes.
It's funny, Rich.
Always at the last minute, you pull that rug out from under me.
Yeah, Rich, it's funny, and I don't know, Charlie, if you knew this or not, but I used to make jokes when we went to an event that Doug would have a kissing booth, just to be goofy.
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
Well, then I'm going to tell them. Just pretend I didn't tell you, Rich. But we were going to one event. I don't remember where it was. And Doug called me up like a week before, all serious. And he says, what if I really do a kissing booth and we donate all the money to charity or something? And I was like, Doug, you're going to get like lip sores. And you don't know who these people are. You can't be just having 1,000 people line up and kiss you. What's the matter with you? But he was going to do it.
Be quite that many. And
He's picturing.
I'll do a person by person evaluation to see.
Doug's
if
thinking it's going to be like a line of Hollywood starlets in the line. Now, did you see the people?
Yeah.
It's going to be a big burly guy named Bear lining up.
My kind of guy.
He'll give you a 20 for multiple kisses.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's better off. You just hang back and enjoy it.
I am getting a visual of that, guys. I'm getting a visual of that.
Yeah, you got to have a big guy named Bear. Oh, Bells is here,
Brilliant.
Doug. We're going to see Bells next week. I'm excited.
I'm hoping.
Next week, we're going to actually, I was debating what we were going to do next week because we have to get up at like 3 a.m. on Friday to travel.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm not going to do a guest next week, but I am going to do a show, just us, and we'll have a time just to kind of goof around. We'll talk about some of the last few weeks. We haven't done that in a while. So I am going to do the show next week, but it's not going to be long because we got to get a good night's sleep. We got a long day Friday. So we're going to get ready to bring Ken in 2 minutes. I do see he's in the chat. He's a good guy. He knows how this works.
Yes.
Ken's been around for a while. I got a lot of notes on him. I got a super good video clip of how my first memory of Ken, something that he did for me like 7-8 years ago, Doug. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I'm going to play that. He's in the green room. No, don't play it. Oh, too late, Ken. I already re-edited it too, so it's a little shorter.
Okay.
I'm really surprised that Ken still has that up on as a public video on his channel. Mm-hmm. But let me bring him in so he can defend himself.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with Adventures in Dirt, DK, Ken King, he's got a YouTube channel, Adventures in Dirt. He does a weekly podcast, now also a vodcast. Doug, have you ever heard that word, vodcast?
You know me in technology.
Probably
no,
not.
I've never heard
It's
that.
it's like a video version of the podcast, so you do both.
Okay.
He's got that, and then Jersey Ray Diggs, thank you, helping us retire so we can treasure seek full time. Yeah, wouldn't that be good? I got to go find that Fen treasure that Ken. We'll talk about that later. Okay. But thank you, Rachel. And then he also does what I thought was one of the most innovative shows that we're going to talk about, his weekly Dirt series. But let's bring Ken in so he can tell us all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, and whoever else is here, DK himself, Adventures in Dirt.
Dun, da, da, da.
Wait, that's not you. There it is. I knew I was going to mess that up. I told you I'd mess it up.
You did not sign the release. You better not show that video.
Oh, I got it queued up. I re-edited it yesterday, Ken. I was like, I got to move this over here. I got to move this around. I got to tighten this up.
So funny. Yeah. I watched it again too, and I knew it was coming on your show, and I thought, I wonder if he remembers. I'm going to have it ready to go. But when I watched it, it's way too long. You know,
I had to cut it down. Okay. I cut it down to about a minute because it was long, but it made me think, Ken, like, back then, like, being that we've done this for so long now, I can look at a clip like that and say, it's a little too long. I got to cut it back. It's funny, but I'm gonna ruin it if I make it too long. But back then, when we're new, you don't realize it. And I'm sure you can look at it now and say, oh, it's great, but it's a little too long. Let me trim some of this fat off. And that's the experience you get from just doing this. You see how long people watch for, what they like, what they don't like. And you try to curtail your style so that your videos are more what I call watchable.
It makes my skin crawl when I watch that back, because you're right. Like, you don't know anything about lighting or cameras, and you're just playing around. You're trying to see what you can do. When I watch those earlier videos, like I'm sure you do, you're just like, man, what was I thinking? But hey, that's where we come from. That's what we did back then.
It's a weird thing, Ken, where I literally cannot go back and watch any of my videos from like the first 3 years because the quality, I just feel it was so poor. Like the camera's real shaky, the audio was bad, and I can't watch it because it makes me like uncomfortable, And it's only because, now, we set our own bars a little higher. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly fine, in the eyes of everyone, but you become your own worst critic because you're trying to do a better job.
Right. In 5 years, are we going to think the same about this? I'm Probably. Sure we will. We'd be like, what were we doing? Remember we used to do that live stream thing?
Oh, 5 years from now, I'm going to be like, man, I can't believe I had Doug on my live stream every week.
Doug, Charlie, Rich, how are you guys, man? Good to see you.
Ken.
Yeah,
Hey,
Ken,
Ken,
I know you know. I'm sorry, Doug. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Is your lawyer sitting with you off camera, Ken?
Yeah, he's stepping in. I'm going to have him send a message to Jason's text here in a minute.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Ken, I was going to say, Ken, the only guy you haven't met was Rich Van Winkle. I believe you haven't met Rich, have you?
No, I don't believe Rich and I have met. No, I don't think so.
Well, you know what,
Doug,
Ken?
have you and I met, Doug?
You had Doug on your show once.
Yeah, but I mean, have we?
Yeah, but in person, I don't
I
think
don't believe
so.
we've met in person.
Oh, I just assumed you did.
I met
That's why
Charlie
I
in a
was thinking
bar.
You would be at Coda.
Yeah, I wish I would too. There was a chance I could have gone, but at the last minute I kind of pulled back, and then I lost the opportunity. So
Yeah.
sometimes you got to strike when the iron's hot,
Iron's
when the
hot,
fire's
yep.
hot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good hunt, Dakota Ha. They have a lot of good people coming in. It's well organized. The venue is fantastic to look at. So I'm excited to be going back again. See some old friends that you don't get to see very often. Mainly dirt fishing.
Yeah,
Mainly
great,
dirt
buddy.
fishing had a really successful hunt last weekend. I saw some things online about it. What did he say? Get excited. I'm going to Rhode Island hunt and sent Scott a detector. But yeah, he had an event last weekend, Doug. It was his first one, I think like 25 people or something like that. But I heard it went really well. So congratulations, Mainly Dirt Fishing.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody at, I think it was at Nokta. We were saying how many hunts pop up and how it's really getting the hobby out there faster and faster and faster because so many of these hunts are popping up all over the country almost every weekend.
It's crazy.
How many hunts do you get to go to a year, Ken?
Not enough.
Well, I know.
Yeah,
Now, you did go, I was alluding earlier, over to England with Charlie. I don't know, that wasn't a hunt, but you went over there for a week. How did you make out? I know how Charlie did. What did you get over in England?
I've been over there twice so far. The last trip I went, I was able to get a hammered coin, which is always cool, right?
Yes.
And I actually found something that had to be reported as treasure. That's the first time I've ever experienced that.
Wow.
So I got to experience that whole procedure. And I ended up getting it back. What they call disclaimed it, and they sent it back to me. But it was so cool. Like, because you're over there, you're American in England, and you don't know anything really. You just know any signal could be something amazing. And I pulled up this little silver cufflink, and some guy's like, "That's treasure." I go, "Yeah, sure it is. I'm going to treasure this forever." He goes, "No, you're going to have to report that." And so we did, and sure enough, they hung on to it and put it through its process and gave it back to me. Here. Yeah, matter of fact, you want to see it? Do I have the ability to share screen?
I don't know. Do you as a guest?
Let me see. I probably should. Let me see. Share screen.
If you don't,
yeah,
if you
right here.
Okay, good. Let's take a look. Look at this, Doug. We got an expert on the show today.
There we go. Check that out.
Oh, let me bring it in. Hold on. Let me bring it in. Oh, wow. Look at that. That's a cufflink.
That's a silver cufflink that is, it commemorates the wedding of Charles II to Catherine of Braganza in 1662.
Wow. Charlie, that cob you found was Charles II.
Yes, Charles II. Yes.
Wow. And it looks like there's two hearts on that thing too.
Yep,
I guess
that's for the marriage. Yeah.
That's really cool,
That's
Ken.
beautiful.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I just quit sharing.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I had to turn that in.
Yeah, that's nice. You got it back though, Ken. That's nice they didn't keep it.
Yeah, I'm glad it's a cherished possession of mine.
Yeah, they could. Oh, Eric Thompson. What do you say? Good Lord, Doug is in a kissing booth. Look, Eric, don't sign up for that. Eric's kissing booth. Thank you, brother.
I was cracking up.
So, Ken, let me start back in the beginning a little bit because I have a bit of an agenda.
Sure.
So, if people aren't familiar with you, I always like to find out what people's origin story is. What got you into detecting in the beginning, and then we'll jump into how that translated over to your YouTube, your podcast, and everything you do.
Yeah, and if I get too wordy tonight, Jason, just jump over the top.
I'll just kick you out.
Yeah. So, I think about that all the time. Young, growing up in Northern California, I used to go to the beaches a lot, and I'd see all these old men swinging these metal detectors. And I think that's what initially sparked it. I was just wondering what they could possibly find. And then as I got older, my father was always one of these guys that would like go to the dumps and come back with more than what he took, because he was always trying to find some treasure in the rough, like a first edition book or something that he thought was going to be worth $1 million someday. So he was kind of a treasure hunter like that, even though I didn't know I was being groomed, but he was kind of like that. And then when I moved to Colorado in 2000, I was trying to find an activity for me and my sons to do. And gold prospecting is really big here. So I started prospecting gold in rivers and creeks here with my kids. And then because I did that, I wanted to get a metal detector that could find gold in the gold tailing piles that we have here in Colorado. And that started my search for a metal detector.
Now, your first one, was it the Patriot that I'm going to show later? Oh, no, you had a bounty hunter before that, I saw.
Yeah, I had a bounty hunter, right. My wife bought it on like a Black Friday deal, gave it to me for Christmas because she'd been hearing me talking about it. Yeah. And I just thought it was great. Watched the video on it from the Hunter GT and then got at it the day after Christmas. It was awesome. Yeah,
if you go back in Ken's video library, his very first video, which I rewatched this week, you had the bounty hunter out there.
Yeah.
Which is great. You jump right in. I always think that's the best way to do it. Jump right in. So how long from when you had the machine to you put your first YouTube video up, and what inspired you to do that?
Yeah. So it was probably about 5-6 months. So the video I watched to learn how to use this bounty hunter was an awesome video put out by this guy named Hunter GT.
I remember him.
Yeah. And John over there put out this video on how to work my machine. I watched it. I thought it was such a good tutorial. I felt like I'd mastered it just from watching that video. And he had a forums for metal detectorists that he ran. And I joined it. And I used to watch his videos, and in my mind, I'm thinking I could do that. Like, I was into audio visual stuff when I was younger. I could do that. That'd be kind of cool to do that. And then I met my buddy Tony through his forums, and we both lived in Colorado, and we got together and hooked up and started detecting right away. And he wanted to start a YouTube channel too. So we both just kind of started it as sort of an experiment. I did it as sort of a fun thing, kind of poking my kids fun. I've done that with my kids a lot. Like, I made like dubstep because my kids said I couldn't do it. And I'm like, anybody could do that. Watch. And like, I became second in Denver of all dubstep, and I said, you
were good at
this.
Dubstep.
Can you hear this? Can you hear this? And they're like, oh, that's pretty good. And I go, yeah, that's me. So I kind of like, as a rub to my kids, I like, hey, I'm going to start making, you're not going to be a YouTube guy. I go, yeah, I can make YouTube videos. So yeah, that's how I started.
Now, it's cool. And, when I started YouTube also, same thing. I went out with my kids. I started it up. My kids first thought, like, I'm assuming, oh, Dad, you're like an old man. What are you going to do on YouTube? Because they're used to watching like kids playing video games.
Sure.
I'm like, heck with it. I'm doing it. It's fun.
Yeah.
And it gets you out there. Yeah. I have a note that your very first video was March 5th, 2017. So if you got the detector for Christmas
on 16. Yep.
Yeah, you only had it for about 9 weeks, and then you threw yourself to the wind and put your first video up.
Right, I did. Had to figure out how to mount a camera onto my hat. Like, I tried to figure all that stuff out.
Yeah, it's cool. It's hard to try to. I've had so many weird camera mounts and different angles, trying to figure out what your style is going to be, and eventually you find what works for you, and everybody's is different.
Yeah.
So March 5th was your first video. And then within 6 months, you started what I thought was super innovative, a series called The Weekly Dirt. Can you explain to everybody what that series is? And I don't want to talk about it for a little bit.
Somebody once told me it's like the Sports Center of metal detecting.
I agree.
That was a great compliment. But no, The Weekly Dirt is a compilation show where I watch videos all throughout the week. And then I take notable finds and notable videos from all kinds of different channels that I watch, and I cut them together in sort of an expose kind of compilation video so that you, the viewer, can see what people are finding from all over the world, really. Between England and Italy and the United States. And I kind of put it all together, and you kind of like can go, okay, if I'm looking for some motivation, I can watch these shows, or maybe I can't get out, but hey, I can watch one of Ken's shows. I can watch this Weekly Dirt and kind of see the different way people film and the different styles and their personalities. And so that's the gist of the show.
Yeah. I like it because, if you watch a video, like I'll take one of our videos, like there might be one or two really good finds, but then there's also some mediocre finds that we just do for laughs and fill time and, all that stuff. But if you want to just see good finds, one after another, that show is great for that. It is the sports center of metal detecting, where each week you would scavenge. I don't even know how your process would go. And I wanted to ask you about that because holy cow, Ken. I mean, how many videos do you have to watch? And then when you do watch them, and let's say you find some guy that found a Celtic gold stater, you have to reach out to every YouTuber and say, hey, this is who I am. Would you mind? So you don't get what we call a copyright violation. How does that process work? Because if you don't know those people, that can be challenging in its own right.
Yeah, it sure can. It can be challenging. And I have about 900 channels that I sub to, and about, 500 written permissions from channels that I've reached out to and said, can I use your stuff? That's from way back in the early days.
I remember you asked me for one way back, and I said, sure.
Yep. One of the first people I asked for my very first show was, it was the 100 GT. It was the Hoover Boys. It was Bo, Aqua Chigger. I think it was Green Mountain Metal Detecting. And everyone gave me a yes. And Aqua Chigger, what Bo said to me? He said, yeah, you can absolutely have permission. It sounds like an interesting show, but you don't have to ask my permission, right? And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, you're going to transform it into something new, and that's fair use. He said, so you really don't need to ask my permission.
Yeah.
I thought, what, it's I would rather ask permission if I agree. Can. But I will tell you, Jason, there has been people that I've used that I have not asked their permission. Either I couldn't get a hold of them, I didn't have enough time. I've usually sent them a message saying, hey, I wanted to get a hold of you. I didn't have time. Are you okay with this? If not, I can always go cut their stuff out later. But, leaning on that fair use. But I agree that reaching out to people, ask them to use their because that's their baby, right? They did all that work on that, and that's their content. But I do give everyone credit. I point out who they are. I encourage people to go over there. I put links to their channels in the descriptions. And
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I can't imagine why anybody would necessarily mind. Their video's already been out. It can only maybe re-enhance it again.
Enhance it, yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. That fair use, Doug, is a tricky thing because if he's changing it or talking over it or making it his own, you do have fair use rights. And that's why when Beavis and Butthead contacted me, they didn't really need to because they were making it their own, but they still did, which I thought was just the stand-up thing to do. I would have did the same thing, Ken.
Yeah.
And years ago, when you were a YouTuber, I could go to Ken's YouTube channel and there was a link where I could send him a message, where now that doesn't exist anymore. So to try to get a hold of a YouTuber that you don't know is difficult.
It is difficult.
You have to go through their comments and put a comment. They might not see it.
Yeah.
So that's a challenging thing, a little behind the scenes of it's difficult to do. Have you ever had a problem where someone saw themselves and said, hey, buddy, take that down, or I didn't like how you edited or anything like that?
Yeah, twice. In the years I've been doing this, twice I've had 2 no's in the years I've been doing this. 2 no's when I've asked permission. Not a no, but hell no. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you don't have to give any names or not, but that's really strange. I don't know how they would, lose out on anything like that.
Right. But after the fact, a couple of people said, hey man, I changed I don't really want you to use my stuff, blah, blah, blah. And so, YouTube has these video editing tools for after the fact. You can actually go in and cut parts of a video out. And so when they said that to me, I was like, okay, I'll immediately cut you out. Sorry about that. No hard feelings, blah, blah, blah. And I did. I went and I cut their section out, and that was the end of it, and then, unsub their channel. So I would never be, we'll go into the process here in a little bit, but I unsub their channel so that I would never be, tempted to kind of, use their content or reach out to them again, what I mean?
Yeah. Or watch their stuff again. If that's
absolutely right. Or point my audience to watch their stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
So did you have a criteria, like when you sat down or still sit down and you're like, all right, I'm going to start looking for the highlights. It's an impossible task to think you're just going to watch 5,000 videos every week. Do you look for certain thumbnails where it appears something good was found? Do you Do you reach out to other people or look on Facebook and then try to track down? Like, how does that procedure work so that you don't spend thousands of hours trying to put a 20-minute video together?
Yeah, good question. So when I'm actively doing it every week, and I've taken a little bit of break here, so I haven't put out a new one in a little while, but when I'm actually doing them every week, when I sit down to pull content, I do what every YouTube viewer does. So, I mean, for those of you that make YouTube videos, listen to this, because this is an important part for you to know as a YouTuber. I put myself as a viewer situation, and I'll pull up a whole week of video. I'll use all my subs. I'll go back a week back, and I'll just start looking at thumbnails, because that's the first thing people see. And the thumbnails that catch my eye, I look at the title second. That's exactly what viewers do. And then I'll look at who it is. And if it kind of seems like an interesting topic, I'll open it in a new tab. Then I'll go on to the next one. I'll open it in a new tab, and I'll get like 20 of them. And then I'll actually go watch those videos. And if all 20 of them are not that great, then I'll go pull another 20 or whatever. But that's what I kind of do. I go through a whole week of videos and see which ones catch my eye, which ones seem interesting. I'll go through the video at sort of fast speed and see what's going on, see what's happening. And then I'll pull the ones aside I definitely want to use. And then I got to record the entire video. I got to screen capture the entire video, and then go in and spend a lot of time editing it down and cutting it down to make the edit tighter,
Yeah, you got to try to get through, because you have so many that you're trying to get in, however many you're trying to do that week. You got to kind of, keep that ball rolling.
Right. Right.
Because it is difficult, and you probably want to space it out where maybe you want to have a zinger up front and a zinger for the end, and whatever your criteria is.
Yeah.
Have you found one before where somebody had an amazing find, but their video or audio quality was so bad, you're just like, I'd love to show it, but I just can't?
That's a great question. I've never been asked that before, and it's absolutely true. That happens a lot. I'll even have people kind of contact me privately and be like, hey, and I encourage you to, if you think you have a great find or a great video you need me to see, find a way to get it to me. I'm on Facebook. You can find me all kinds of different ways. But yeah, they send me like a video link, and it's like, in vertical kind of format. And it's, I don't usually like that. I like to kind of stretch them out. And then it's, really garbled sound and stuff. And sometimes it's been such a great find that I'll ask their permission to cut out their audio, and I'll narrate over the top of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just try to help it out. And sometimes there's a lot of cursing. Sometimes when I use some of these videos from over in England, they let it loose, man. And
I did the same thing. I'm going to bring up that clip you made shortly. But back then I was asking people to send things to me for whatever, we'll talk about the reasons why. And same thing, I would get some that the video quality was bad, audio quality was bad. Maybe there was a lot of foul language, and I just couldn't use it. And I didn't want to say like, oh, can you record it a little bit better? So it's hard. Yeah. And again, Ken's trying to make the best video content he can, so he can only work with what he can work with. But I do encourage anybody out there, if you find something good, send it over to him. I have a link to Ken's channel in the show, but I'll put his email up later also, so you guys can inundate him with your amazing finds. So it'll make
what I thought was that, I could make videos. When I started becoming a YouTuber, I remember I started making my own videos. You can see those early in my channel. And then I had like a YouTube guru guy. It was like one of these how-to guru, YouTube guru guys. And I got to know him personally. So I started chatting with him, and he said, is there a community wrapped around it? I said, yeah. And he said, you need to serve that community. What's the best way you can serve that community with your YouTube channel? And I was thinking, well, I can make metal detecting videos. And he said, well, yeah, you could do that. Or is there any other thing you can think of that would allow you to have content and also service something they may want to see? And that's what got the idea going in me. I'm like, yeah, I could show my stuff all the time. I'm in Colorado. I'm not always finding the greatest stuff. I'm not out every weekend. So, but what if I showed everybody what everyone else was finding? That would give me content. It would be entertaining to those that need to see it. And it gives exposure to other channels. So that's kind of where the idea behind the show came.
Yeah, it's a real win for everybody involved. And, we talk about it, our group all the time, is that we might go out all day, 10, 11 hours and leave with nothing to show for it. And that stinks.
Yeah.
But your format for a hobby where you never know, you kind of have a guarantee, because someone found something that week. Hopefully a lot of people found things. and then you can trim the fat, put a super good Sports Center like style show together. And the people loved seeing, for the most part, loved seeing that they made the show. I always had a great idea for you, Ken, that maybe I'll tell you off the air later. Maybe you'd want to do it.
You gave me one time. I never acted on. I wonder if it's the same one. Is it coming back around?
I picture you, and I'll get into it more when we do the segment when I get into your podcasting, is, if you, even now, if you close your eyes, Ken has a tremendously good speaking voice. He is the best person that I've seen in this hobby that could be a podcaster. He speaks clearly. He enunciates. He's got a good tone. So when you started doing your live things and your podcasting, I thought, man, that's the perfect guy for it. He really puts himself right in the front to begin with, where the rest of us, we try because it's enjoyable, but you have some of those features that you can't teach. You just are born with those abilities. So that was a great fit for you. But like I said, I'll get into that more. But I just wanted to throw you that compliment while I'm thinking about it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One thing you said to me a long time has always stuck to me. I remember it was one of the times I was interviewing you or what, but I tell people all the time, you don't see it. I don't even know if you know it, but I'll be out there in the community somewhere and somebody would be saying something like, oh yeah, I don't find much. You guys are always finding cool stuff. And I always say, Hoarder, Jason Hoarder, you know what he told me one time? He said, Ken, I don't always find amazing things. I don't find interesting things all the time. But what I try to do is make what I find interesting.
Yeah. We
and
do it every week.
Man, that has stuck with me ever since you said it that day. So.
Every week. And I do it personally, for two reasons. A, because I do find it interesting, but I'm thinking of who's going to watch it later. We to us, maybe a wheat penny isn't the most amazing find, but maybe if you live, out west and you're in a rural area, maybe that is an amazing find. So if we poo-poo it, then we come off as like some sort of an elitist, Right. And I don't like that. Every find is appreciated by someone. Give it a little bit of love. You can make it interesting. It hasn't been held in, 100 years, maybe.
Right.
So with all of the clips, Ken, from, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years of doing the weekly dirt, do you have any finds that really stuck out with you personally as maybe some of the most epic finds, whether the find was great, the emotion that the person had was just genuine? Do you have any specific moments that you would think are your best of the best of?
Man, you're talking about a lot.
I know, but if it sticks out, it sticks out. If it doesn't,
12 finds in every video. I've done it once a week for like 5-6 years now.
I know.
It's been a lot. But I'll tell you right now, 2 of them. Actually, they're probably 2 of my biggest videos. That shows you a lot, again, as a video creator, what matters. Emotion, story. Yeah. Brandon Sutton finding the Civil War relics in the mud over there, the leather and the belt plate and
I remember.
You remember that video? He found all these Civil War relics that were pristinely preserved from the day the soldier dropped them into that water, and it sunk in the mud, and that mud preserved them. And his expression, and he was like a kid in a candy store, but completely shocked. And you felt it from him, and you were like, a matter of fact, a lot of people didn't believe it.
You get that in this hobby. You get that, but
it was
you
100%. Yeah. The people he brought in with him there, they were very highly respected. And that was definitely probably the one I remember the most. Second one was this young man over in England. His name Patty Detects.
I remember the episode.
And Patty found his first gold coin, and he started crying, and you can't help but just feel for that kid. Just like, you just want to be there and pat him on the back and give him a high five, because you know how you would feel if you found that. And here's this young man that is just flipping out, and completely emotionally excited and overwhelmed. And that's the second one I really remember.
He was like 12 or 13, right, Ken?
Yeah.
I remember his video, and I remember your video from the week.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. As a YouTuber, the find doesn't matter as much as your reaction and your excitement and your emotion that you're relaying. That's the magic. So, if you're trying to put a YouTube together think of who's watching it. you want to make them magical for people, because the average person that watches isn't a metal detectorist. So it's all new and interesting and to them.
Yeah.
But when you get something amazing like that, like as cool as Brandon Sutton, I thought when I watched it, I loved his emotion even more than the fine. That drew me in.
Yeah.
So that combination was great for him. So
he was telling us about what he was about ready to show us. And he's talking to the camera and he's kind of looking around. He's standing in a body of water, right? And he's about ready to show us this thing he has in his hand. He's like, you're not going to believe it. And he's about ready to show us something. He's like, you're just not going to. And he goes, oh. And he looks in the water and he sees a bayonet in the water shining through the shimmery of the water. And he goes, you're not going to believe what I just saw. And he grabs his camera. He goes down there. He's just like, man, I'm getting the goosebumps right now just thinking about it.
No, it was a really, if you can get lucky and capture that moment.
Yeah.
Because we don't have our cameras running 24/7. So you can need a little bit of luck sometimes to be able to capture that spontaneous moment. And you don't always capture it. You kind of start maybe after the fact, and it's hard to catch people up. But he got lucky that he saw that while he was filming, getting ready to show something else.
It was crazy.
Yeah, the stars really aligned with that.
They really did.
So let me see here. The most impressive one. I've had a few lists, a few questions I wanted to make sure I got to. Here's one before I get to the live show. Now, Ken, knowing what you know now, about being a YouTuber, even a podcaster, if you had to go back 7 years ago and start over with your knowledge, what would you do different to grow your channel and start what you've started in the community?
Way to go, Jason. Knowing what I know now. Oh man. I've learned a lot about making YouTube videos and sort of, even though I can't obtain it or pull it off most of the time, I tend to know more than I actually can produce. You know what I mean? So I probably would spend more time, doing exactly what we just talked about, thinking of the viewer. When you make YouTube videos, picture yourself out on YouTube, you're scrolling, you see a video, you go, oh, that looks interesting, whatever it is. Click on it. Any viewer that does that, you know what they're doing? They're looking for a reason to leave to go into the next video.
They sure are.
So if you can make the video, that's why TikTok and all that stuff's so popular, right? Because it's quick, fast. So if you can edit it in such a way or pull that person along and capture their emotion and the story arc and push pull and all that stuff, then you can keep them there, because they're always looking for the first reason to tune out and go somewhere else or fast forward or whatever it may be. So knowing that, I would then edit my videos to be like that, probably be a TikToker before the TikTokers were there, but not quite TikTok, because this is a personal choice. I can't stand that, but very quick editing, very, very thinking about the viewer, the total viewer. Oh, they clicked on this thumbnail and this title. You have to deliver that right away. You have to tell, they have to see something so that they know they're going to get a payoff of what they clicked on it, because that's their investment. I'm giving you my time. I want to see I'm going to have a payoff. But if you can pull them along this roller coaster of sort of this push-pull emotion of, like I found this cool thing, right? So I could go, oh my God, look at this cool thing. Or I could go, so I was out detecting today. I wasn't doing very good, but then you're not going to believe it. I found, and then all of a sudden, like some music and then some searching and some stuff. So that extends their viewing thing. And you're like, bam, that's what I found. You know what I mean? Stuff like that to kind of, to pull personal. I think I just put that kind of philosophy into making my videos, but I still can't pull that off. So
it's that is an art form, and everyone does it differently, but the successful channels all have, you can watch them and I can see that they put thought into that. Because you want people to be engaged, you want to catch them early, and whatever your criteria is, whether you're the educator or if you are the excitable guy, or maybe you're incredibly handsome like Ken, or whatever your shtick is, there's so many different ways to achieve the same result, but you should have that end goal in mind when you're filming it and when you're editing it, because you're trying to make them for other people
Right. I've told him for years. And Brad, I was glad to see you in here earlier, man. I'm glad to see your health is improving. I'm really glad to hear that. But he's always been one of the best. If I can make videos like Brad, and I know how to, I just, if I could, that'd be great. His whole thing is great. He's got all those camera angles now where he has his shot where he tells you what's going on. So you've clicked on it, you get this introduction. So now you're invested. He shows these traveling clips. So it's bringing you along, right? Sucking you right into the story. Then he's showing you shots down in the hole of what he's finding. And then there's another shot of him explaining what's going on, what he found. And it's just repeats. And he's got his music that he creates that he puts into it. The beautiful backdrop of the Vermont mountains, the Green Mountains. And, man, I don't think anybody does it better
he's one talented rascal. I'll tell you that he's good. I always root for Brad too. I like him. Just as a good guy, and he really pours a lot of heart, soul, and love into his videos every single time.
Yeah, he's been real generous to me. He's given stuff, given his time and energy to me where he didn't need to. He's just, we have interactions, never met him, kind of, we only know each other online. He's done my show. I've kind of inspired him, but he's just a good guy. He's just a good guy. I had a guest on my podcast one time. His favorite YouTuber was Brad, and I let Brad know, and Brad did something special for him for the show.
Oh, did he? Yeah, he's a good guy.
Cool. Yeah.
He told me he watches the live streams the next day, so he'll see it tomorrow, and you'll make him blush. So that's good. That's good.
Good deal. Get better, bud.
Well, that's a good segue because I wanted to get into the podcasting aspect of what you do, but there was a small little, I'm going to call it like a step that got you there, at least from my perspective, is before you started doing those, you started a show called Digger Spotlight, which I thought was your first step into the interviewing process. And that's when I really took notice of your speaking voice and your interviewing skills. What made you come up with that concept? Because it was kind of innovative at the time for a video. There was a lot of talking interview podcasts, but not a lot of interviewing with other detectorists. How'd you come up with that idea?
Yeah.
And what got that started?
Yeah, same thing. Just trying to be innovative and thinking, what else could I do that would service the community? And I thought, well, the community watches all these YouTube videos. They might watch my channel to see his compilation videos. But I mean, there was so many channels starting, and metal teching was coming so popular. And like, man, you got this whole group now that they all have these individual personas, and people would like to hear from them. People would like to know the same thing you're asking me about right now. Right. So I just started thinking, like, what could I call it? How would it be formatted? I started learning all about live stream, at least the technology that was available to me then. I thought I'm going to try to make it as polished as I can. Like we said earlier, I go back and watch those now. I'm like, man, I could have done so much better. But yeah, that's what, then I just started reaching out and trying to line up guests. And I really enjoyed doing that,
Now, it was really good. I think your very first guest on that was Mike Lyman, M.A. Lyman, who Mike was one of the inspirations for me to do live shows because he was the first guy that I knew that was doing anything live.
Yeah.
So I consider him like an OG, M.A. So shout out to M.A. Lyman.
That's right, Mike.
I think he was your first guest. And I saw Tony, who is your partner in your Relics Radio, was a guest. I'm going to have Tony come on hopefully as a guest on this show, but I didn't want to divide your time. You each have your own unique story.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I'm going to reach out to him later. But and then you had me on, fairly early too on that. And who did I lose? I lost Charlie. He'll be back. But the reason why I did it, Rich, since you're talking to you, is because I started doing this thing, a few years earlier it was really goofy, Rich. I called it Where Go the Logo. And it was my way of trying to get out to the community. So I made like 2,000 quarter hoarder stickers. And I said, anybody that wants one, let me know. I'll send it to you for free on my dime. The whole thing probably cost me $1,000. I said, just send me a picture or a video or anything when you get it back. So that way people are getting something out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Ken made a little video, which I thought was really, really well done because his channel at the time was small. It was maybe only his 8th video out. I thought it was really good editing. So I'm going to play it, Rich. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea.
I edited it down a little bit.
Everyone sit down. Make
Now,
sure
this
you've
is
already
early.
eaten.
This was early in Ken's YouTubing life, but I still thought it was pretty good. I'm going to play it in full screen, Rich. Are you ready for some early DK excitement?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. I'm bringing it in, Ken.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm going to bring it in full screen, Ken.
All right.
Actually, I'll play it like that so you can watch it.
No. Make it full screen, please.
All right, I'll make it full
I want to
screen.
see my face.
All right, here we go.
Hey everybody, DK here with Adventures in Dirt. I am so excited, man. Guys, there is an amazing accessory you can put on your metal detector that just changes the entire game. And not too many people know about this, so you just got to keep it between us. This will be between you, me, and, well, the internet. Let me show you. Let me show you what I'm talking about. All right. So here's my metal detector, right? It's my Patriot. So I got my Patriot here. And today in the mail, this comes. That's right. It's a Hoarder sticker. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, DK, that's just a sticker, right? Right. Watch what happens when you press the YouTube logo. And activate. Whoa. Whoa.
Look at that, Doug.
Look at that power.
I put it in my cuff right there. That power goes right down to your coil. It goes right down to your coil. And if you put it on the cuff like I did, watch this. When you put your arm in here and you put your forearm in here and your forearm makes contact with that Hoarder sticker. Oh, yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Can you see it? Oh, it just changes the game. It completely changes the game.
Very creative, Ken. Very
Come on,
creative.
Doug.
I like
Doug.
that.
Hold on, let me bring Charlie back in. I'll put us in the 5. Charlie,
There
did
you
you
go.
see that? I don't know if you came back in time.
Yeah, I did. I saw it. I have it on the computer here. That's really funny.
When he sent me that, Ken's leaving, but you know what? I thought, he still got the Patriot. Does he still have the sticker on there? He does.
Yeah,
that son of
there
a
it is.
gun. He still has it on there. I was so flattered because who would do that? Like, who would go out of their way? I just wanted a picture. And, he had to have, I still don't know if I could recreate that. Like, with all the editing software I've got, I don't know. It must have had like an app or something that could, highlight that. I thought it was really cool.
I use Premiere Pro for my editing. I always have ever since the beginning. That's my program. That's the one I know. And they had a program called After Effects. And I was just playing with it, and I was just learning it about the time that you were giving away those stickers. So when you sent me it, I was like, what am I going to do with it? And I go, well, maybe I could figure out how to do something with After Effects. And I just learned how to do this glow effect. And so I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to do. And it all came together.
If you get one of my stickers, Ken, if you put it on your machine, you scratch it, it smells like dog dirt.
Well, you need to send me one, definitely.
I will.
But no, I thought it was super cool. Now, Ken, I was really surprised because now I had a copy of that because when you first did it, I recorded it. But I said, let me see if Ken still has that on his YouTube channel. And he does. It's the whole video. It's like a 4-minute video. Yeah. The whole video is that. I was like, well, I can't believe he didn't turn that to private in all these years. He still has it up there.
I leave a lot of that stuff up, man. I probably should. I leave a lot of that stuff up.
But no, it was good, Ken. I appreciate that you did that. And that's why when Ken reached out to me, Doug, originally and said, hey, can I use some of your clips on my show? Or can you come on my his new show? I have it covered up right now.
Digger Spotlight.
Digger Spotlight. I said, oh, absolutely, man. If you're going to do that for me, it's the least I can do is help whatever endeavor you're doing. So whether you realize it or not, Ken, it does. It helps you out because it puts you in a good light in the community that you're out there. We're all kind of collaborating with each other.
Supporting each other, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate it. I remember it was a big deal for me because I'd always looked up to you and your channel and always liked it. So whenever I would do that and get a yes from somebody, it would always just be like, man, I was so respectful and felt humbled. And I was like, yeah, that was so cool. So thank you for that. It really meant a lot. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It meant a lot to me that I just wanted a picture and you really went above and beyond. And I said, oh, I like this guy, whatever he needs, whatever he needs.
Very cool.
So you started doing the Digger Spotlight show. You had me on, and then Ken. I think you had Brad. You had Kurt was on.
Yep.
I forget. You had a whole bunch of them.
Yep.
You were doing them for a while. I really enjoyed it, and then they stopped. And I was like, oh man, I kind of felt like a hole was missing because other people started doing it. And I'm not trying to say that they weren't any good. I'm not that good at it. Yours, I thought, were exceptional. And then I saw you slowly going into the podcasting, originally with Loy. If you can give a little backstory on how you originally got into the podcasting, and then we'll get into what it's become for you.
Sure. So Relics Radio podcast has been around for 7 years. It's one of the longest running metal detecting podcasts. I'm biased, so I think it's one of the greatest ones. Tennessee Jeff, this gentleman Jeff, and Loy Milam, who's Digging with 7 on YouTube, they started this podcast 7 years ago. Loy's a big sound engineer guy, sound guy, musician. So they started this podcast. In the first season, he called me up and asked me to be his guest. I think I was show number 14 or something like that. And both Tony and I were both guests on the show. And I remember when he asked me, I didn't think I was anybody. I still don't. Right. So, but when he would ask me to do that, I was so like thankful and like, wow, impressed that he would even think to reach out to me. And I enjoyed myself. I thought it was so cool. So I was a guest. And then plus the Weekly Dirt, Loy and I kept in contact. I was always featuring Digging with 7 videos and listening to the podcast. And at some point, Tennessee Jeff, a number of years later, wanted to take a break. And so Loy needed a co-host. And so he reached out to me and he said, Ken, you have a good voice. You present yourself well. I think you'd be good as a co-host. Do you want to come on and try it? And I said, yeah, I'll give it a try. So I went on and tried it. And then like 2 years later, I'm still his co-host, And at some point, Loy wanted to take a break. He wanted to step away. And so he just let me run with it. And so it was very, very easy for me just to ask my digging partner to come on and be my co-host, being Tony from 5280 Adventures. And he came on, and Loy's basically said, it's your show, it's your guys' show, just go and run with it. So that's where we're at today.
So with Loy, and I'm not even sure the answer to this one, I'm assuming that Loy had whatever equipment was needed, microphones and mixers, or however he did it. You came on as a guest. He probably brought you in like I'm bringing everyone in. But when he hands you the reins, now do you have to suddenly learn how to do the engineering side of a podcast?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So I did it early on. He used to produce, so he had all the equipment. I just had to show up and get a microphone and show up and be like, woohoo, very easy, And I started asking him about his setup, and he started sending me pictures of it and tell me what it consists of. And so I started searching Amazon. I went out because I said, what happens if you can't produce the show? How could I produce it? He said, well, you really can't. And so I said, well, let's do that just in case you need to take a break. That way I could produce it. And so I went out and got all the same equipment he was using. And so then I could produce or he could produce. Right. And I think once I started doing that, then he started taking breaks. And I think that's when he said, or that's when he saw sort of, Ken can produce well, and I can just take a break. And so, yeah, I had it well before he stepped away. I still have it. I mean, he's still using the same gig. So.
Yeah, I remember watching it unfold when you first came on, because I was on Loy when he did it with Tennessee Jeff.
Yeah.
I remember you came on. I always thought you had a good speaking voice. And I did kind of miss the video portion of it because I'm a YouTuber. I like to see people's faces as they're talking. It adds an extra layer. And eventually you did get there where now you're doing both. But for a while it was only audio. Did you make the active choice where I want to do both, or was your hand forced? Because I heard the Spreaker network might be going away. How did that come about where you went from a podcast only to the podcast and new word of the day, Doug, vodcast?
Man, you've done your research. I'll tell you, it was out of necessity, really. We could have waited a little longer until we pulled the trigger on it, but yeah. So a lot of metal detecting podcasts, whether it's, the Vortex podcast with Gypsy, whether it was Heavy Metal, whether it was us, All Metal Mode, American Digger Magazine, we all did it on Spreaker.com, because they allowed you to do a live broadcast with a chat room. And that's always cool because you interact like you're doing now. And sorry, I'm not watching the chat, but you could interact You can interact with people, and it was cool. Well, Spreaker all of a sudden came up and said, we're no longer going to allow that to happen. We're going to do away with the live aspect. We're only going to allow you to pre-record and upload your audio once you've recorded it. And so Tony and I started talking. It's like, what do we do? Do we go find another platform hosting service that allow that? And there's not a lot out there that do that. The one that we found was terrible. We didn't like it at all. So really, we're like, what are we going to do? What are our options? And so he's like, well, we should start live streaming video and then take the audio later and upload it to Spreaker. And then people, our audio listeners, which I'm telling you, Jason, far more audio listeners, audio only listeners. That whole podcast audience is a whole other audience. There is some crossover, but I see the numbers, man. And by far, people love to listen to podcasts throughout their day. They download the show, they listen to it on the
earbuds, and
weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
You could just, entertain yourself. So, we started doing the vidcast, live stream. And, that's how we switched over. We decided to do it sooner than later.
Yeah.
And then we had the talk about where are we going to host it on Tony's YouTube channel or my YouTube channel? Like, where are we going to put it? And then, StreamYard, same program you're using, allows you to simulcast it on multiple YouTube channels and also some Facebook pages. So we just do that. We use StreamYard and we simulcast it on both YouTube channels. And then the very next day or that night even, I'll take the audio portion of it because you can download from StreamYard just the audio only portion and throw it over on Spreaker so that those that just want to listen to it at their leisure can still continue to do that. We just don't have the live aspect over there anymore.
Yeah. Did you tell your Spreaker audience that it's not live anymore, or are they still actively commenting even though it's pre-recorded? Do they know the difference?
Yeah, they do. They don't comment at all anymore because it's still active until the end of this year. So we could have done it right up to the end of this year, but there was a learning curve. So we wanted to get on it now and see if this was truly what we wanted to do. If not, we wanted more time to go find other platforms and other avenues. And we just jumped on it early. I advised American Digger Magazine to do that, and they did that. So now they're doing that. And anybody else I could talk to. So yeah, we did some special announcement podcasts to our listeners that, hey, on this date, we're switching over. And we did like 4 shows leading up to it. Hey, on this date, we're switching over. You'll still be able to find the audio here, but we really encourage you to come look at our ugly mugs because, sometimes we talk to people and they want to show something.
Yeah.
And so you'll be able to see it and just hearing it described,
Well, no, I like that it's available both ways. Now, when Spreaker stops live, you'll continue, I'm assuming, re-uploading the audio the next day and keep that podcast version of it alive. I'm guessing that's the plan.
That is the plan.
Yeah, because I agree. I think there is a big market for that. People work all day. You got your ear pods on. Rich listens to audiobooks all day when he's driving around. People like to be able to, hear something while they're distracted doing other things, working, driving, or whatever.
Yeah.
I used to listen to them all the time driving home from Doug's. It's a good hour some ride. I would listen to a podcast because I couldn't bust out my phone and watch a podcast.
Yeah.
So let me get into that. Now, between the Relics Radio, your Digger Spotlight, you've probably interviewed, I don't even know, 200-300 people or more. How do you prepare for a guest interview? There's the people that you know a little bit, like I know you a little bit, you're not a stranger, but then you also have guests who you don't know who they are. How do you prepare? How much do you have to try to look into them so that you're not asking questions that aren't relevant in any way? What's the process for that for you?
Yeah. So for a long time, I was the only one gathering guests. But once Tony joined me, I encouraged him to start doing more of that for us, And so now it's almost 50-50. He'll grab guests, I'll grab guests. We have sort of a Google sheet that we share, that we put down the dates and who we have coming up and even ideas and if we've contacted them or not. So it's a real collaborative thing. Once we get a guest scheduled, we have sort of a generic set of questions that we have on it. We also have a Google Doc sheet that we share, which is like a Word, document. And there's a list of sort of pre-filled like descriptions with all of our links. I've got sample questions in there in case we get a guess. Maybe that's maybe a little dry, or maybe, short answers and stuff. We can fall back to these generic questions to kind of help the conversation get going. But we just do research and figure out cool questions. And we'll, throughout the week leading up to the podcast, we'll add them to these Google Docs. I'll be in the middle of work and so I'm like, oh, I should put that down. I'll open up Google Docs and enter a topic or a question to ask him. Sometimes, if we really don't know who the person is, or Tony brings me somebody that I don't know who it is, I'll go research them, at work or something, and do the same thing, write things down that I see. I'll go to their YouTube channel. I sort it by the most popular. I'll see how many subs they have. I'll make notes about that so we could talk about it, grab their links, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was just looking on Relics Radio. We're at 247,000 downloads of the show in 7 years.
Now, if I listen to it live, does that still count as a download, or is a download only if you listen to it after the fact?
Just after the fact.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at the numbers, like Tony and I both each on our YouTube channel, because we have different audiences, on our live streams, when we do the Relics Radio live stream, we usually get about a couple hundred views from the live stream each, on each channel. The podcast will get thousands of downloads on that show. So that's the difference in numbers, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's not like YouTube video views, which could be tens and 20s of thousands, but it's still a great audience that is still listening and downloading the show. So that
no doubt about it. No, I Doug, you should do that, Doug. Start putting up the audio from ours, and you could start the Dog Tag Dougcast or something like that.
You should do it.
Yeah.
So Ken, I got a couple questions because I'm curious, because now I kind of do this a little bit with the guys.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, when you get a guest on that, let's say, isn't the most extroverted or the most talkative, how do you kind of handle that when they have something interesting to say, they're just not good at audibly getting it out there? How do you dance around that maneuver?
It's challenging, right? Because, not everyone is, a lot of people are nervous when they come on the podcast, especially now on video.
On video,
a lot of people aren't used to it. So they're a little nervous, and that's understandable. And so all you do is pick up the slack. And usually what you find is after about 15 minutes, they'll relax and they'll get more into it, and they'll realize it's just a conversation like you would have with your buddy out having a beer on the tailgate of a truck or something. Like, it really is just a low pressure, but you add pressure to yourself, right? So you just fill the holes, you fill the slack. That's why I like having a co-host, because I could like turn to Tony and be like, well, you've done that, Tony, right? Blah, blah, blah. And I go, remember that time you did that? And we kind of have a conversation, ask our guests a question. And as they're even thinking of an answer, we could kind of interject to kind of give them clues and tips to kind of give them to feed off of that. And it's tough. Sometimes it can be tough, but it's something I learned from being a YouTube guy. You got to talk to a camera with no one else around. You think I'm a good speaker. Thank you for that. But I never used to be, I never was. And becoming a YouTuber, developing that muscle has taught me to be a better public speaker. I can get up in front of an audience right now and talk about anything. And it's because of this. It's because of me actively doing YouTube and then getting on the podcast and forcing myself to think fast and to come up, be able to just talk about stuff off the top. And it is tough, though. It's tough.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a skill that you develop. But I do think you had those skills, whether you used them or not, beforehand, because just your pacing, sometimes when a guest is getting to the end of a sentence, I feel like I start talking and I'm cutting it off, where you have that patience to wait. You don't have the fear of 5 seconds of dead air, where that makes me nervous. And you really have a good pacing to the whole thing. And whether that's from experience or just being a good orator, look at that word, Doug, I threw out, orator.
Wow.
Orator.
Did I pronounce it wrong?
Orator.
I wasn't even done patting myself on the back.
Go Raiders. No.
I was still patting myself on the back.
Yeah.
But I think it's really good. Do you have a most memorable moment during a live show where maybe a guest said something unexpectedly, something that caught you by surprise? And would you share that with people?
Yeah, I do have a thing I can tell you. What I will say is that every guest we have on before we go live on the air, as we're prepping the guest like we did tonight, I always say, please excuse us because we're going to step on each other. And although that's not a polite thing to do when you're out in public and depending on your sensitivities, I'm apologizing now because I will step on you to get out the next question. Because I said the worst thing for podcasts is dead air, right? But you're going to get it. Last night's podcast, if no one saw it, go check it out. We have Rodney Lewis on there. The guy is a master of bullets. If you want to know anything about Civil War bullets, go watch last night's podcast. But he was having connection difficulties. And if you watch the vidcast back, it was throwing Tony and I off because we were like, is he frozen? He's not frozen. And we had all this dead air. And so then Tony and I just start interacting, waiting for him to come back. And although that came off well, it was a difficult thing to do because of that. We didn't, it was kind of a dead air thing. But the most memorable thing that ever happened on the podcast, when I was with Loy Milam, Digging with Seven, and him and I were doing the show, he always talked about, he was from Kentucky, and he always talked about his grandfather, great-grandfather fought in the war and where he fought at and what unit he was from and stuff. And, you got these audiences listening to you. And we used to have a call-in number also.
I remember. Yeah,
that people could call in. And so, he's got this story about his grandfather. Well, one night this guy calls in, just a listener, said he had to call in, first-time caller, long-time listener. He calls into the show and he said, Loy, he goes, so I was out at this location where Loy's grandfather was a soldier. And he said, I recently found a plate, a U.S. belt buckle, and it had Milam scratched in the back of it.
Oh, wow.
And he asked where he was at, and he said, well, that could have been my grandfather's. And they ended up, found out they couldn't ever really prove it was, but it was right where he was stationed, right where he was at. And they end up swapping it. He ended up getting it back. But I remember that blowing me away, that the reach of this podcast found the ears of this guy that has been listening, and he happened to find the belt buckle of Loy's grandfather's Civil War belt buckle.
Wow. I may have broken down, Doug, in that moment. That's pretty amazing.
That's amazing.
And the fact that the guy, not only tracked you down, reached out and then gave it to him.
Yeah.
Wow.
It belongs to you, Loy. It belongs to you and your family.
That hits you right in the heart.
Oh,
I always liked Loy. I still like Loy, but when he hosted the show, I remember Loy was an author. Did you know that he authored books, Ken?
Yeah, he did.
And I actually bought them. I have them on the bookshelf back there in hardcover, which are hard to find. Always respected his whole body of work and his dedication that he brought in. But no, that is a pretty amazing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jay. Didn't we do a show once?
I did it once or twice. Yeah, I mean, it's been out for 7 years, so I know I was on at least twice. It could be. I know you were on once on your own. I think Charlie's done a version of Ken's shows, whether it was with Loy, Tony. Correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie. Or just don't say anything.
I have heard Charlie on a couple shows.
Just stare at me with big empty eyes. That's fine. Charlie, you were on one of Ken's shows, weren't you?
I'll tell you what. I'm having problems with the language stuff here. You guys are breaking up on me. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. Well, we can hear you.
And you're good.
Yeah, you sound great.
When you say something.
Yeah, when you say something.
That's a nice hat, Charlie. You're wearing a great hat right there.
Yeah, Excalibur Shovel, shout out. He was in the chat earlier.
Yeah.
He's probably still in there.
Great job, Casey.
Great guy and great shovels. Do you have a most memorable interview? Like somebody who you just thought killed the room with, maybe good stories, incredible personality, someone who you're like, man, I got to have that guy back on. Like someone that just knocked your socks off.
Shoot. Shoot, that's a tough
I
one.
like putting him in the pressure seat,
Yeah.
Doug.
Tony's in the chat. Tony, throw in what you
Tony,
think,
throw
man.
some
Let's put
names
the
in.
pressure
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there. Well, this is the guy, Jason Hoarder. He came on one
Don't
time
butter
and-
my butt. Don't
Hey
butter
man,
my
I'm
butt.
telling you, somebody you like people that. Here's the best guests we have: the people that come on, and Tony and I feel like we can just go have a beer.
Yeah,
And Jason, you're definitely one of them, man. You could carry a show.
All right, you don't have to butter my
Nope,
butt.
it's dead serious.
Hey,
Any
Ken,
guest I have like that, I'm trying to think of others
Hey,
that.
Ken,
Yeah,
I can help you out. Matt Howell was a great guest of yours.
Yeah,
Matt
Matt's
Howell has
got
an
a lot
open
of-
invitation to come on anytime he wants.
Oh, I
He's
gotta try
another
to
guy
just-
that can just talk
Matt Howell.
metal
he's a
detecting
good guest.
nonstop.
I want to try to get Matt on here too. That's a good one. He's got countless stories.
Good friend of mine. Yeah. We've had so many. It's just
I
so
know.
many. And
I know.
you
I'll
know,
give you.
I love the guests when they come on and it's not what you expected. You know what I mean? Like you're like, I think I know how this interview is going to go. And then they come on and they explode. Oh, here's I think she's in. Here's one. I can tell you, I hope she's not too embarrassed by it. I don't think she would be. We had Rachel and Audra on.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah, when they were hanging out together and putting out videos, we had them on. And from watching the videos, I thought Audra would be the overwhelming one, and Rachel would kind of take a back seat a little bit, just in her personalities. But it turned out to be opposite.
Yeah.
Like Rachel really came on strong, and I was like, wow, that they were both great. Don't get me wrong, both great. Yeah. But it was like a role reversal of what I thought it would be. And I remember thinking that after the show, like, wow, that really wasn't the way I thought it was going to go. Just, not being judgmental, but you know what I mean?
No, it's it. Well, that actually leads into my next question. Was I was going to say, you have a lot of YouTubers on, people that, are known or at least, or have videos out where people watch their stuff and everyone kind of has an idea of what this person's personality is. Have you had any that came on your show and you felt their personality was much different than how they portrayed themselves? And you don't have to give me their names, but I mean, did you have any that you were like, wow, I was not expecting them because that's not how I envisioned them based on watching their YouTube videos, Facebook videos, whatever?
I don't think so. I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're looking for, but I don't think so. I don't think I've had anybody come on and been like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting that. I pretty much have gotten everything I thought. If anything, it's the other way. Like they come on and they freeze because they're a little nervous or whatever. And I thought, wow, they're so open on the videos that I thought they would just be totally used to it. And it's usually people that I don't know, that I haven't interacted with. And you're right, we do use a lot of YouTubers and stuff, but that's something Tony's really trying to change too, is pulling from different platforms. People that are notable from different platforms now, we're trying to bring them in because it just mixes it up. People from different types of treasure hunting, bottle diggers, arrowhead diggers, even thrifters. I want to get thrifters in there because it's all treasure hunting. And, maybe, it gives somebody, it's something different for people instead of just always YouTubers, but Tony's really trying to do that on his end.
Yeah, there's a lot of platforms. If you think outside the box, there's a lot of crossover, like you said. We had Brandon Nichols on Venture Archaeology. Now, granted, he's also a metal detectorist, but I really wanted to gear the show around the bottles because that's so different from what we do, but yet still connected. And what a great, knowledgeable guest he was. I had no idea his bottles were so interesting, or at least he makes them interesting, and that's what makes a good guest.
Did he tell you what he does with the broken ones?
Oh yeah, he told me, and I saw on his Facebook he was showing like some pictures.
Brilliant.
Yeah, really good guy.
Another guy with open invitation anytime he wants to come.
Yeah, great guy, really great guest. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, Alan Cleveland said gold diggers. Yeah, have prospectors in, gold diggers. We're even like thinking of some magnet fishers. You know what I mean? Just
there's guys that look for gemstones and rocks and stuff like that. You could really branch out to all sorts of things.
Mushroom hunters, like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, Doug, you're a mushroom hunter, but the wrong kind. Have you ever tried to interview someone and they turned you down? They're like, nah, I'm not interested. Have you had that experience?
Yeah. You want me to name names?
Well, not if you're not comfortable. I mean, like, what was their reason? Were they just busy? Were they just like, I'm not into that?
I think they were kind of too. I think they're too much of a big deal.
Oh, they were too big for their own britches.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I can say this one name. Jace Robertson.
Oh yeah.
Duck Dynasty guy.
Yeah.
He started doing this metal detecting show, right? He's doing this metal detecting show. So I reached out to his publicist. I'm like, hey, I'm this lowly podcast, but probably the best podcast on metal detecting out there. Would you think of throwing me a bone and getting Jace to come on, And the answer was, yeah, for $100,000.
Oh, he said yes, but
some amount. You gave me a amount. It was a lot of money.
Dollar amount.
A lot of money.
Wow.
And I said, you didn't understand me. Throw me a bone means help me out here.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where he was an aspiring, duck guy. And, does it hurt to give back to the community that you're now trying to get into?
Right.
Especially
when you got a metal detecting show come out and that's not what you're known for, and they were trying to advertise it, him and Steve and everyone over at Garrett, they were kind of trying to advertise it. Now they had their own budget for marketing and advertising. I get all that, but why not connect to the core audience,
No, I'm with you. I guess I'm surprised yet not surprised.
I mean, they do what they do. They got what congratulations to them. They've got a lot of success and stuff, but I was taking a shot, it was a shot in the wind.
No, we've been trying to reach out to some people that are like unobtainable. And so far they've truly been unobtainable outside of the detecting world. But, just like, knocking on a door, shoot for the stars. And if nothing happens, no harm done.
Hey, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
That's right.
That's right.
All right, Ken, here's one. Again, no names are needed. Have you ever had a guest on where at the end of the interview, you're talking to Tony and you say, man, that guy was a jerk, or I didn't like that guy at all. But of course, right. Again, no names, but have you had that experience where you thought, or maybe had no expectations, and then at the end you thought, wow, that didn't come off good. They didn't come off good. Anything like that. No names. No.
I don't think so, man. Hey man, if I'm doing the show, they're always going to come off good.
Well, that's true. I mean,
I'm teasing, man. I'm joshing.
You can save the show sometime.
No, I don't think so. Tony, let me know just say yes or no, Tony, if we have. I don't, because I can't remember. I don't recall that we've ever done that. We've more times than not, because like here we shut down the show and then we usually talk to our guests off air for a little while after the show, and then they go away and it's just Tony and I. Yeah. And man, more times than not, we're just like, holy cow, like that was amazing.
Yeah.
Like Lewis last night. It was like when he left, we were like, oh my gosh, like
he was good. He was interesting, and I didn't even realize that talking about bullets could be so interesting.
Exactly.
Until I saw the show. It was phenomenal. He did a good job.
Exactly.
Talking about that, I'll give a little story of my own. Talking about after the show, after when I had Brad on from Green Mountain, I try to be very conscious of people's time. So I promised Brad I'd have him off by whatever it was, 10 o'clock. But after the show, me, Brad, and Doug sat in the green room talking till like 2:30 in the morning. Yeah. And then I realized, he would have went all night, but I was trying to be nice.
Yeah.
And then a week later I had Steph Diggs on. And when that show ended around 10 o'clock, Steph and I talked in the green room until 6:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And that's when I was like, wow, I got to get up in a half an hour.
Oh, that's not happening with us tonight, man.
No. I mean,
that's not happening with us tonight. I got to have dinner after this.
We don't talk as much as I'd like to, but then I was like, I got your phone number. I'll call you tomorrow.
Yeah.
But that was cool.
I sense when that's going to happen. afterwards, and I get out of there pretty quick.
Yeah, Rich usually will get out. Charlie hung for a little
I know.
bit.
I just know.
Your mom was with me and Steph until around midnight, maybe 1 a.m, and then she bailed out. But it was just fun, I like these people, and so far on my show, everyone I've had on, I know personally on some level. So it's an easy conversation, where you're reaching out a lot of times to strangers or people that, you've only seen some of their content, but you don't know them. That's a whole different challenge because you might not know their mannerisms. You might not know any background unless you do all this research and watch all their videos to kind of emulsify yourself into their life. Is that a word? Emulsify yourself?
Yeah, sure is. Yeah.
Well, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure. And that's why that pre-show is so important, right? You show up 15 minutes early, you get a chance to, hey, how you doing? I'm Ken. Yeah, good to meet you on the camera, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And you get to kind of go back and forth and you see what it's about. And I'm the same way. Tony and I are the same way. Like we feel like we could talk to some of our guests all the rest of the night. We could have them on 100 times. They're always welcome. Like there's so much we didn't cover. But what happens is I feel so responsible for their time. You know what I mean? Like they're giving up their time with their families and everything to come join me for an hour and a half that I cut that after show quick. Hey, thanks again for coming, man. You're a great guest. We're going to let you get back on with your night because I feel like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should just enjoy myself and continue on, but I'm always giving people an out,
Yeah.
I mean?
I try to give an out. Yeah. And I told Ken, I said, I'll probably have you on till 8:30. Sometimes the guest goes till 9 because I give that half-hour leeway.
I'm good with whatever.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Let me see. I had a couple of other ones here that I was curious about. Have any of your interviews resulted afterwards in unexpected friendships that may be outside of the interview? Now you stay in touch with them or you have some sort of, extra step of friendship besides just thanks for coming on. Maybe we'll have you on again sometime.
Oh man.
He's trying to induce you to take him out to dinner.
I like Olive Garden, all you can eat salad bar.
There we go. I like ribs. So I don't, I mean, everyone we had on, it was just like, here's what we usually get. We're off air after the show. And it's like, Ken, Tony, anytime you guys are in Alabama, you look me up. Like we get this bonding. Like Rodney last night was just like, today he was just singing our praises, said an amazing time on the show. I sent him a private message. Hey, thanks again for your time last night, blah, blah, blah. He's like, look, bud, anytime you ever lose a guest, you need a filler, you let me know, and you guys are ever near me, it always becomes that kind of thing. Those kind of people, I will shoot messages back and forth. But I can't think of anybody. Everyone I have strong relationships with in this thing are pre-existing usually.
Yeah.
What I mean? Like people I consider friends, right? I consider you a friend. You and I have known each other now since that video you played earlier, in various different avenues and this and that. In Matt Howe, all kinds of different people out there that I consider pretty good friends. I wish we lived closer, you know what I mean, to a lot of different people. Tony and I have this road trip planned. We actually have a road trip of going out and detecting. And Charlie's on that list. He knows.
I remember you saying you were going to come out this way a couple of years ago, but you haven't gotten out yet. It's challenging.
He's invited me, and I've felt bad that I haven't taken that up. Someday, darn it, someday.
Now, Charlie's pretty good. And if you come out, I'm sure we would all get together. It's a good time up here. Charlie's always been super inviting to people. One guy, Charlie, Shane comes out. He flies out from Utah, right?
Yeah, Shane Godfrey.
Comes out from Utah. So Charlie is a gatekeeper for sure.
Hey, I just thought of a name for you real quick. We had a guy on here. Tony found him, I think. He was a YouTuber. It's called Metal Detecting NoCo. NoCo stands for Northern Colorado, and that's where I'm at. And Tony just saw him, not a very big channel, but hey, Metal Detecting NoCo. So he invited the guy to come on the show. I'd never met him. Since he was coming on, I watched a couple of his videos. But he came on and he was just like, he was kind of standoffish, kind of stiff a little bit. We started talking and stuff like that. And after the show, he was like, wow, I was real nervous at the time, but that you guys made it really easy and stuff. And then, and he's just like, yeah, he doesn't detect with anybody. He doesn't go out with any buddies or anything. He's a solo detectorist. And we were telling him, you really got to go out with somebody, you know? So he got off the show, and the next day he reached right out to us. He's like, you guys, that was a lot of fun last night. Would you consider coming out with me? I've got this amazing permission at the oldest house in this town, right? It's a historical property, and they're going to let me detect it. And we're like, yeah, sure. So we went out and met him in person. He brought another friend. So now there was 4 of us. We're now detecting buddies. Like, we're now a crew. Like, we've been going out, making videos together, and, you know, we now detect with them. One of them's getting ready to move away, unfortunately. But yeah, we were just detecting with them last weekend. So I guess that is a friendship that's come from the show.
I can attest, Ken, when you can go with friends that you really love, like these guys up here for me, all of them, even Doug, it really amplifies the whole day for you. And you know they're good friends when, if Doug finds something, or Charlie, or Rich finds it all the time, I get more excited when they find something good than when I find something good for myself. And that's, if you can get that camaraderie with people, man, it really amplifies anything you're doing to the next level.
Sure does. Like he told us when we went out that first time we went and got together and we detected that historic property. At the end of the day, he goes, he had so much fun, man. He goes, I had no idea.
Yeah.
He goes, I had no idea I was going to have this much fun. He goes, I don't know what I was doing not detecting with people before. He goes, I had no idea it would be like this. So we just, same thing. Somebody'd find something, we'd all come running, you know.
That's
and
what
we'd
it
be
is.
like, ooh, high-fiving them and stuff. And, you know,
Yeah.
you'd always go, got something. And here everyone come running, you know. We're all YouTubers, so we're all bringing our cameras over. You know,
it's a big camera fest. Yeah, you got to coordinate that.
You do.
Ken, 1 is the loneliest number you'll ever do.
I've heard that somewhere. That's
Yeah. Well, my first year of videoing, I was by myself, and I was perfectly fine with it. It's not till I started going with other people, then I realized, wow, this is so much more enjoyable. I don't know if I can go by myself again. I don't know if I could go back, or if I did, I'd have a really hard time because I enjoy their company.
Every now and then I'll jump out or something, like I just want to, you know, get used to a new piece of equipment, jump out to a park or something. And it just feels different. I'm like, this is not as fun. And, you know, it's not, something's missing, you know? So 100%, you got to go out with people. If you never
I look forward to seeing the new crew. Do you have a name for your group? Like your group name yet?
I don't. We're still doing like nicknames, and we're getting all that stuff going. We're thinking about giving you a call and having you help us out on that. But
yeah, the Lone Strangers.
You always got it just like that.
And I got one more question.
No co-locos. How's that?
Yeah, I like it. I got one more question, and then I'll see if Doug or Charlie or Rich have anything. Again, I'm fascinated with the guests because you've been doing it so long.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a guest on who maybe said something or did something that changed your perspective on either detecting or content creation?
Absolutely. Oh, you want the story?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. I'm gonna butcher his name. So we had history seekers on.
Heath.
Right? Heath and Scott.
Okay.
We had Heath and Scott on. And, you know, back then it was always like, oh, we're in Colorado, you know, poor us. And all you East Coasters have the Civil War and the, you know, Revolutionary War. And, oh, we wish we could live there. Right. And that was my feeling. I truly had that feeling. And I was just like, you know, we're not finding large sands here. There's so much stuff we're not finding. And Scott snapped me right up, man. And he goes, Ken, you should not feel that way. He goes, do you know how important the push west was for our country? Do you know how important that was, and what a pivotal place in our country you live in that was pivotal for people pushing west, going towards the gold rush of 49, later, you know, coming into Indian territory and establishing states. He said, yeah, those people brought stuff with them from the other states, and that stuff that they lost was so important to them. It was such a necessity for them. He really reframed my mind that night. And I still use that as anytime I hear anybody in Colorado saying that, even though I still kind of say it every now and then, I reframe them with that same stuff he told me. I got off that podcast and I was like, man, he's absolutely right. And then
Yeah.
your words came in. It's not always interesting, but what you find make it interesting. You have to learn how to appreciate the things you can find where you find them, whatever you find. And now it's like, great. And as soon as Tony and I figured out we could find pre-Civil War soldier camps here, Union cavalry camps, oh, it was on then. They were like, oh, we can find that stuff here. And then our dive into research just exploded, you know?
Yeah. Every part of the country has their own unique history, and it's not always the grass is always greener. You're going to have unique things that I won't find, and people in California will have things that you don't find, and make the most of where you are. And you can really go down a rabbit hole of incredible things anywhere where there were people. So yeah, I 100% agree. Make the most of it. You're going to have your own unique history and find a way to tell that story.
Yeah.
So that's, oh, look, digging with 7, Loy.
Hey,
Just
Loy.
popped in. Haven't seen him in a while.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ken, I got 2 quick trivia questions for you real quick.
All right, Loy.
I'm going to open it up to the guys.
Yeah.
And I'll throw one out with Loy just to show you that I'm thinking of these on my head. Do you know how Loy, digging with 7, got his nickname? I remember when he told me about 7 years ago.
No, I don't. I don't think he's ever told me that story.
Oh, well, it's a much longer story that I'm going to abridge, but it was his old baseball jersey number. And for some reason, hey, get old number 7 up to bat or whatever. That nickname stuck all these years later. And what's Loy now, like 35, 40 years old? Still uses the nickname. So there we go. I remembered. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one.
And my other quick trivia question was, on your weekly dirt show, do you remember the very first clip of the YouTuber you showed in episode 1? Episode 1, clip 1. Who was the first debut YouTuber of Weekly Dirt?
Better not be you.
No, it's not me. It's not me.
Is it Stealth Diggers?
Nope. It says somebody overseas.
Really? How about Neil Colston?
Nope.
Somebody overseas, huh?
Still around today. Still around.
Oh, Addicted to Bleeps?
Addicted to Bleeps. Yes. Episode 1, clip 1. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Little down the old path there.
Yeah.
And I
that guy's
believe
great,
it
That guy's got a
was
great channel.
August 23rd, 2017, episode 1. I heard you say last night you're working on a new episode.
Yep.
I'm excited for it to come back again.
Yep.
I can't wait to see some new weekly dirts.
Yeah, I got my own detecting videos coming out too. It's just people don't usually know me for that, so when they come out, they're like, "Oh, that's not a weekly dirt," you know what I mean? So it doesn't get the views or anything like that. But I do have some personal digging videos coming out. I still enjoy doing that. I still film. It's just finding the editing time, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, we didn't really even talk about you as your own YouTuber, which you do a great job of it. You just really left your mark as kind of the person that facilitates the community.
Right.
I know, Charlie, you and Ken went over to England and dug like a year or two ago. You want to say, Charlie, you've been kind of quiet. I'll bring you in. I think Doug, oh no, Doug's there. I thought you said he locked up, but he looks good. Ken, do you remember going over to England with DK? How is he behind the scenes? You can let us know.
Charlie, I forget that trip. Yeah, I must have drank a lot during that trip or something, man, because
we did not, no, Jason, we did not go together last year.
No, I've never been to England with Charlie. We weren't on that trip. He went with a bunch of other people.
You guys weren't on the trip together?
Mm-mm.
No, not last October, no.
We met each other at Pound the Ground, 2019.
Oh, you went with Jeff Ford. I screwed it up. You went with Plug Master Ford.
I'm not that tall.
Jeff Ford asked me to ask you a question because I had him on a week or two ago.
I think he's there. They left today.
Yes, they did.
He left today. Jeff asked me to ask Ken a question, and of course, I forget what Jeff's question.
Jason, here's what happened. I think they call themselves the Dirty Dozen that year. Ken,
yeah,
probably you guys went over.
That's right.
I was supposed to go on that trip. I couldn't go because we were having a house built at the time, and Kevin Dow took my place.
Oh, okay.
Kevin Dow went that time.
Yeah, you went with Kevin, Plugmaster. I think you went with Nugget Noggin. Did Tony go?
No, he was supposed to go too, and he backed out. And then I think they tried to get Charlie, and and then they got Kevin Dowd. Kevin Dowd filled the space.
Yeah,
Tony felt
right.
terrible about it. He really wanted to go. And yeah, it was who all was it was Relic Rangers up from Washington.
yeah. Preacher Digger.
Preacher Digger.
Husband,
Yeah.
wife team.
Missouri Mike, Plugmaster, Nugget Noggin, me.
That's
and,
a fun crew. That's a fun crew to go
a
over
couple
there
other
with.
guys. It was
And they called themselves the Dirty Dozen, Ken?
the
that
Dirty
year?
Dozen. That came from Preacher Digger, the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
And Preacher made up all these little awards for the week, you know, most greenies, most silvers, all that kind of stuff. And then at the end, the last dinner we had the last night, they awarded all the awards. And it was really a nice touch. And boy, you bond. So Kevin Dowd and I stayed with Nugget Noggin in a little 3-bedroom kind of separate thing. And so every morning you're having breakfast together, chatting YouTube, chatting, social media, dinners, just hanging out, talking about stuff. It was really fun to kind of talk to Michael about stuff he's got going on and that world that he lives in.
I do remember you had a lot of rain that time out there. A lot of rain. The weather was pretty rough when you guys.
Crazy rough, sideways rain, sleet, a lot of snow, super cold. It was miserable. But we're in England. You got to go. You got to go.
Yeah.
Will you go back again, Ken? Is it something
100%.
that might be on your list?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they were asking me to go on this trip. I couldn't make it. Tony and I were talking about 2025, and we're just trying to see if we have the money to go. And
Hey,
I need to start digging parks and selling gold more to be able to go.
We're all talking about potentially going too. Maybe we can all go over, plan something together. I think it'll be a great time.
That would be amazing.
And Ken, if you're ever looking for a guest for your show, this guy to my right, to my whatever he is, Mr. Van Winkle, I didn't give him a lot of talking time tonight. Talk about a guy that finds a lot of stuff and would have some good stories.
Yep.
Tells Tony to put him in his Rolodex in pencil.
He's in the chat. Mark that down, Tony. We'll be in touch, Rich.
Doug, do you have any questions for Ken? I want to get him out of here in a couple of minutes. It's getting late.
Yeah, I want to know what Ken does when he's not involved in one of the facets of metal detecting.
I drink heavily. I'm in construction. I'm a project manager for a large commercial metal stud drywall contractor.
And if I know this, I think his home office is within miles of my house.
It is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Our big corporate office is over there in Lancaster.
That's why you need to stop by when you're in town.
Yeah, he's retired now, but the CEO of our corporation bought a restaurant out there in the woods nearby. It's like called the Cottage or Log Cabin, or it's this old log cabin place. It's really historic. It's like 1700s or something. It's really and he turned it into a restaurant. I forgot the name of it. Never mind. We'll move on.
Is that in Pennsylvania here?
Yes, real outside of Lancaster.
Because the guy opened up a restaurant recently, and it's a log house. It was a log house.
Yeah.
Or it's the same guy.
Yeah, probably my same guy. Yeah.
Well, if you ever get out this way, they'll pay your way. Tell them, it's a business trip. I got to go to the office. I didn't sign my HR document. I got to get out and sign it.
Ever since Charlie invited me, I've been trying to find a way of, tricking my company and sending me back there for more training or something.
Right. I didn't realize they were written. That's only about an hour from Charlie, if that.
If that, yeah. Maybe half hour.
Whenever I do 100%, I'll ask to go extra days and, maybe make the trip to go on a Thursday and I'll spend the weekend and fly back on Monday or something.
That's good.
Now, Rich, I know you don't really know Ken. You've been kind of quiet today. You have been on Ken's Weekly Dirt show, unbeknownst to you probably. Do you have any questions for Ken?
I don't know if I have a question. I just want to say that since I started detecting at 3 or 4 years now, and then I've been with these guys 2.5 or 3 years.
I'll put Ken.
I found you rather quickly on the internet, and I started listening to the podcasts and watching the Weekly Dirt, which helped me discover even more channels to watch. And it was just really cool early on listening to everybody's stories and your stories. it made me very quickly even more addicted to metal detecting, is listening to everybody's stories.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
And I hear that time and again, from people like, oh man, I didn't know about Hoarder's channel until I was watching your video and you showed them. I went over and checked them out and all this stuff. And, I always think like, wow, like, because you know how the popularity of metal detecting is completely taken off, and everyone always thinks metal detecting is just the best things you find. Like, you don't find junk because most YouTube videos show the best things. So I'm like, am I perpetuating that bad part of our hobby because I'm only showing these good things and perpetuating that thought and the myth in the hobby? Sometimes I feel a little bad about it, but thanks for that, Rich. I appreciate that.
We talk about showing our trash, sometimes in a video, and because people do ask about that, and we just really haven't yet, but I think we should at some point.
We'll try to find a way to do it.
Yeah.
I find trash, like anyone probably finds, is boring, and maybe I'll flash to it because it's a show of highlights, and it's a show of friendship and community and the fun
and
of
communicating those highlights.
Right,
Yeah.
like that's what I kind of base mine around, and the finds are just a catalyst for the commentary and the fun and all that. So
yeah.
I don't know.
That's a question I have for you, Jason, and for the guys. So I've seen the evolution of your channel, Jason, right? I've seen it sort of evolve over the years, and it's changed. It's taken on a new life. I'm sure you're aware of it. So now, currently, take your viewers. How much of it do you think is about the find? And how much is more about, Jane Fondug and, the interaction of, the personalities and the fun you have?
It's, I don't know for sure. I can tell that on the back end of it, Ken, seeing all the analytics that a YouTuber can see, that I don't see peaks when a great find is found in the video. I see peaks when something funny or interesting happened. And sometimes people may go back and rewind and watch something funny again because everyone loves laughing, Ken. It's just, and I try to I would rather have the video be more fun than show great finds. It's just that a find brings the group together, and then whatever happens naturally with good friends that rib each other and stuff like that, that's the magic that I try to capture.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't really care if we find great finds, in the sense that doesn't really matter. But the group, when we're spread out 100 yards, might not come together if Rich finds, a safety pin from 1996, so we need a find just to bring us together. And then the spontaneousness of whatever, that's what I try to show.
Yeah.
Hey, Ken.
Yeah.
Ken. We keep filming even when the cops show up.
Yeah.
Put that out, man. That's, if you ever see some of these other channels, that's we magnet fished and found a gun and here comes the cops, that's becoming popular too. But here, think about it. Cheers, right? You didn't watch Cheers to see what kind of beer they were drinking, right? That kind of thing.
And honestly, I don't want to even base my channel around the find. Granted, we live on the East Coast, so we do have good finds. I'm not going to say we don't. But if you base your channel around what you find, that's not sustainable because you're not going to always find that. So find other ways. I always use Brad. Again, I'll bring Brad up because he's always comes up. He finds so many other ways to make his channel enjoyable. The find doesn't matter. And I try to do that on my own unique way. Doug will find a toy and I'll make up a funny nickname for Doug, and then I get a clip of Doug and Lynn taking the toy for a ride around the house or whatever, and try to have fun with it. Where, how many things can I talk about a large scent? Are they awesome to find? Yes. But how many things can I say about it if we find 10, 12 large scents in one day? Right. It's hard. It's hard to keep it interesting over and over and over again.
We do seek out the old properties, of course, because we love the colonial stuff, but I've heard Jason now so many times say that, we have spots that we could go find 100 buttons a day, but we'd rather go to, for the video, we'd rather go to a house built in the 1920s.
For sure.
Jason said a lot of times, all those things that we find can make a lot more of it interesting of a video than 100 buttons.
Yeah. Pieces of Americana, man. It's really interesting. Like that. I always bring up your olive spoon, Jason. You know what I mean? Like
all that
an
stuff.
Interesting find. Yeah.
Some of my best videos, Ken, were stuff that wasn't necessarily old or rare, but relatable. So like when you say you live in Colorado, or people email me and say they live in wherever, Oregon or Texas, if you can find something from the 40s or 50s, people can relate. Oh, my mom had that. I saw that at my grandmom's house. I had that as a kid. That makes it more magical for them rather than these abstract things from the 1600s that if I don't put a picture and a description up, they don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
So find ways to make it work for you. But I don't want to make this show about us. This show is about Ken. But thank you, Rich. I know I've seen you on Ken's Weekly Dirt because Rich finds the majority of our stuff every weekend.
I see that.
But when me, Doug, or Charlie find something good, it's amazing.
It is. Well, Charlie was on a big tear there for a while. He probably still is, but man.
Oh, in the winter, every week it was a Charlie show. He's going to be the whole highlight show for I do a yearly one. He's going to be the whole highlight show.
He is still
I
kind of on
I did
tear.
a lot of dancing. I did that winter.
I saw that. Yeah, you were getting better and better every time.
Yeah. So, all right, Doug, I'm going to get Ken out of here. He's been, I've got him over. I'm trying to respect his time. Any last things for Ken, Doug? You've got 30 seconds.
No, I would love for him to come out here and hunt some of our colonial spots. I think he'd really, really be happy with what he finds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to.
I just think he's a good dude too. I think
Yeah.
Mark this date. I've said it 100 times, right, Charlie?
Charlie, anything for Ken? Charlie Harley.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My most pleasant time with Ken was sitting at a bar with Matt Howe and with you. We had a great evening that time up at Pound the Ground.
We did, and that's the first time. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but of all the people I met there, I really thought I would like to get to know you better. You really kind of touched, certain type of people you like, right? Certain type of people you like, people with integrity, people that you can relate to, people you'd like to know better. And you were definitely one of those. I wish we would have had a lot more time. I wish we lived closer.
Right.
You really seem like one of those people that I really could get to know.
Ooh.
So
Thank you.
All right, it's getting kind of mushy.
no, I'm sorry, but it was kind of like, wow.
Really,
Charlie.
really, bizarre.
I love you, man. No,
Hold on, Ken. Hold on.
Sorry to bring the show down.
All right. Well, listen, Ken, thank you very much for coming on. I'm going to reach out to Tony and have him come on too, hopefully. I'll have to wait like a month because some of the questions might be similar.
Right.
But he has his own
He'll
unique
just say
story.
what Ken said.
He has his own unique story, and I didn't want
He
to
does.
share the stories.
100%. 100%.
Ken, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate your time.
Good to
Everyone
see
go
you,
check him
Ken.
out, Adventures in Dirt. And of course, the Relics Radio podcast that appears on not only Adventures in Dirt, but 5280 Adventures channel. So check it out on one of the others. Support him. He's a great guy and is doing awesome things within the hobby.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Hey, and all you guys are doing a great job. Congratulations to you. The channel's real successful. And I wish you all, and even those in the chat, I wish you all a ton of luck. Go out, find the good stuff. And if you find it, tell me about it.
Yeah, I'll have a link after the show. Email Ken. He's going to want him for those weekly dirts, and you'll get yourself on his show.
That's right.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it, brother.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Later.
See you, Ken.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Okay.
Look at that, Doug. Ken King. Always liked Ken from day
Yes.
one.
Super nice guy.
He seemed like a stand-up guy. Always
Yep.
respected him, and I really loved his like I said, his voice. Not that he's not a handsome guy, but like sometimes a voice will just capture you. Like David Attenborough. You know David Attenborough, Doug?
Oh, sure.
Yep.
All the nature shows. Yeah.
Not that Ken sounds like David Attenborough.
I'm thinking more David McCullough from the Civil War features.
Look, there's
No, those
Brandon. Adventure Archaeology popped in. We mentioned him earlier. How are you,
Yeah.
Brandon? We were saying how good of an interviewer you were. I mean, not interviewer, interviewee. Interviewee. So thank you for stopping in. Doug, star-studded people came into the
Oh
comments.
man, we're really attracting a
Star-studded.
quite a
Look,
crowd,
Drum and
yeah.
Detect is in there. I saw Clem Fandango and
Turd Ferguson.
I can't believe I drew a blank. Thank you, Turd Ferguson. I saw our Audrey Girlinghouse. The name
Underground
of
Buddha.
Wendy Olson.
And Bobby Buddha.
Oh, I did see Bobby Buddha in there
Yes.
earlier. I didn't want to interrupt Ken. I did see him, so thanks,
Right.
Bobby, for stopping in. Everybody, but Doug, I'm going to wind this show down because it's getting kind of late.
All right,
Anything else?
let me just say one thing. I got some dog tags from a friend out in Indiana. He sent me 3 Indiana dog tags, 1941, 42, and a 47. And I just wanted to thank Nathan Martin. And I don't know if he's related to our friend Brad Martin, but Nathan, thank you. It's going on the dog collar of fame. So thank you.
Doug, you've gotten quite a lot of dog tags since the last time we showed that. We're gonna have to do another photo because you've gotten quite a few of them.
Yep, I'll accept them all.
Yeah, Doug always said he's. It's a shame I didn't nickname him Gold Bar Doug because he'd be in a much better position right now.
Yeah, I could really retire.
But no, thank you, Charlie. Any last thoughts? I'm going to get ready to wrap this thing up.
Well, I enjoyed the show tonight. Like I said, I've met DK many years ago, and I still stay in touch with him. And hopefully he'll stop out here one of these days and do some detecting with us all here.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think he's a good guy. You just get a good vibe about somebody. I like him. If he can come out, him and Tony, both welcome to come out. 2 stand-up guys.
They do a lot. Invited.
They do a lot for the hobby. And
hey, if he called up and said, "Hey, can you guys get me in next week?" I would do it. I mean, not next week, but the week after. But
right, next week.
Next week we'll be in Arkansas.
I like how Doug says, if they called me and said, "Can we come out next week?" Well, not next week. Any week, but no. But I got a lot of respect for this guys.
You know what I mean.
I got you. Rich, any last thoughts? Again, Lynn wasn't able to be here. I saw her in the chat a lot today from out in Gettysburg.
Yeah, I think she's still here. I think, but no, that was a fun show, and I do really hope that we can meet him and detect with him at some point soon. That would just be great.
Yeah, and if he can't get out here, maybe we could all go over to England together.
Yeah,
make a good.
That would be great too. Yeah,
hey, Rich, I got a great idea. Next time you come on at your home in that setting, get shackles into the wall and hang there like the guy from the Wizard of Oz. Yeah,
I should do that.
Yeah.
Rich, that is the scariest looking place I've ever seen. I mean, Rich said that's his bedroom, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so scary. I'd be afraid of spiders. I'd be afraid of
on Elm Street.
Yeah,
I'm goodness.
Sitting on the bed right now.
That is so intimidating. Yeah, I'd be afraid like rocks would fall on my head and my sleeve.
I was going to say, be afraid for a rock.
You know, rocks don't fall, but a little bit of the
mortar.
The mortar
that has fallen before.
Yeah, that is
a couple times. Before we got the roof redone, we woke up to a bat flying around in here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
one day you'll have to give us a visual because you're moving soon, and the house you're in is super duper old. I've never been inside of it. You'll have to send a couple photos in before you move out officially.
I will. I'll make sure to do that.
All right, thank you. But all right, we're gonna get out of here, guys. Everybody in the chat, thank you. If I didn't get you, I apologize. Prairie Pirate Dave Chumley stopped in. Thank you, Dave.
Yes.
Sue Ramsey, again, Clem Fandango and Turd Ferguson. I can't believe I forgot his name. It happens sometimes. Keep digging metal detecting. Adrian Tucker has probably been here all night. Always see Adrian. Thank you. Alan Cleveland, Nick Molnar, Patrick Sullivan. There was a whole lot of you in here. If I didn't get your name, I do apologize, but thank you. Dangus Squatburger, can't forget him.
And also Teresa.
Teresa was in here. Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Teresa,
She
I
did
did
get
see her
there.
earlier.
Yep.
Teresa will be going to England in a week or two.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope she does good. I can't wait to see some updates for her. Next week, we will be back. No guest next week. It'll probably just be our group. I don't even think Lynn said she'd be able to make it, or maybe she's got another event. But we'll have a short show next week, just us catching up on some videos because we're traveling early the next morning.
Yep.
And then we'll be back again with some good guests. I've got a few really rockers lined up. So I'm excited for that. Meet some cool people and talk about the hobby we love, Dougie.
Yes, sir.
So, but I'm going to end the shindig. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. We'll see you next Thursday night. So thanks for watching. Happy hunting.
You just said we wouldn't see him next Thursday night.
No, we will. They'll see us. I can't see any of them, Doug.
Oh, okay.
The camera only works one way.
Oh,
I
okay.
can't see any of them.
Okay.
So, all right, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Later.
Bye.
Everybody.